Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the transition. Maybe you've been watching these videos and maybe you've gotten some information and you want to make some lifestyle changes. You want to have some healthier eating habits. So this video is about how to show you to go from the diet that you're on to the one you want to be on. So the very first thing that you would want to do in transitioning to a healthier diet would be to only eat the clean meat. So you want to completely abstain from those meats that are harmful to you. The unclean meat are the ones that are the sewer system of the world and of the sea. These are the ones that clean up all the waste. They have all the toxins in them, all the bacteria, all the disease causing things in their bodies. They're trying to clean up all of that, and they are like the garbage disposal, and we don't want to eat those foods. They cause disease in us. And so this is the very first thing that you would want to do to clean up your diet, is to not eat those unclean meats. Also, you want to really cut down, if not completely eliminate, the highly processed foods. All those foods that are really not food. They are just man-made synthetic food-like products. All the chips and the soda and the cakes and donuts and cookies and all these things that are just really overly processed. You want to really cut down on that as well. It is disease-causing. And so the unclean meats are the ones that, as I said, cause all the problems that we have that we're completely supposed to abstain from. And in America, there's only a few that we actually do consume on a regular basis that were forbidden by our Creator. And one of them is pork. And pork is in everything. We have pork chops, pork ribs, ham, bacon, bologna, hot dogs, and it's just in everything. And we're not even supposed to be touching its dead carcass, but we eat every part of it in our culture. And you can tell by the way that we are having high cholesterol and clogged arteries and heart disease and all these things are, you can see what it's causing in this country. And so the part of the pork that we don't really think about also would be like in your ham hocks that you put in the vegetables to season it, or your bouillon, things like that. A lot of times you'll see that in vegetables or in soups and stews. You want to remember that as well. There are some hot dogs that are beef hot dogs, so you don't completely have to give up hot dogs, but some of them also say chicken and turkey. But you want to be careful, because a lot of times, even though it says chicken and turkey, it'll also say pork. They use pork as a filler in a lot of foods, and we even hear that in the political arena when they say, you know, they've added a lot of pork to it. It means they added a lot of unnecessary things. And so you'll see pork as a filler in a lot of things. Even a little more subtle and sneakier is that pork will be in a lot of other food items that we don't even know it's there. We would have never thought that it was there. And I'm not trying to overwhelm you, I just want to inform you. And gelatin is one of them, that the pork joints, or the joints of any animal, but a lot of times it's pork, is in the gelatin, which is in Jell-O. Then they use gelatin for things like marshmallows. They put that in, and a lot of other types of candies and things that they put gelatin in to help it gel up, and that usually is made from joints of pork or any other animal. So just to help you to be aware that there are, you know, when we go to the grocery store and we purchase something, if we're not making it at home ourselves from foods that we actually can see and know what they are, we really are at the mercy of not knowing exactly what is in that product. That's just how it is. So the more you can make your own food at home, the better, because you know exactly what's in it. There's always the unknown when we go to someone else for our food. And so we just need to learn and be informative and be aware of these things. So you have the pork is the one thing you do want to stay away from. The other animals that we eat in America that are unclean are the ones in the sea. They're the shellfish. That's your shrimp, your crab, lobster, crawfish, and your smooth-skinned fish like the catfish. All of these are bottom feeders, and they eat up all the waste of the sea. And so they have disease in their body, and their bodies are made to deal with that, and ours are not. So we want to abstain from those animals. Those are the very first thing you would want to do, is to take those unclean meats out of your diet. Now the clean fish would be your bass and trout and salmon and tilapia and orange roughy and tuna. All those that have fins and scales would be your clean fish. So some of you would be happy to know that tuna is a clean fish, even though it has very small scales. It does have scales. So the scales allow the toxins that come into the fish to be released, just like the pores of our skin release toxins out of our skin. And the smooth skin and the shellfish, they don't have that capability, so all those toxins are held in, and we don't want to eat that. So this would be the very first thing you'd want to give up or get rid of in your diet, I should say. And you know, if we can't give up something, then we probably, we're going to suffer the consequences of it, and we probably deserve it. If there's nothing we can say no to, if we can't deny ourselves something, then we are going to suffer the consequences. So we've got to learn to give up something. And there's plenty of other meat still out there available. You have beef and chicken and turkey and the clean fish, and so there's still plenty of other meat. So if the first thing you can do is just cut out the unclean meat, just doing that one thing, you're going to be way better off for it. I mean, I would say up to half. You're going to clean up your health problems, because these cause lots and lots of problems and lots of disease. So the unclean meat are the ones that we're completely to abstain from and eliminate from our diet. That would be the first thing. The second thing that you would want to do once you get the clean meat only and not the unclean, the second thing you would want to do is to eliminate all meat from your diet. Now, I know this seems very difficult, but this is also where the transition foods can come in. Some of those bridge foods I was talking about to help you transition from where you are to where you want to be. Because when we're eating very highly seasoned meats, we want to have those tastes and textures, and we're used to a lot of that rich seasoning and textures, and so we want to use foods that kind of help still give us that same idea that we're eating. And but I also want to go back and say, on the meat, if you are eating meat, you definitely want to make sure that you cook it really well. The Bible says that we should not eat any meat that has the blood still in it, and we're not to eat any of the fat of any animal. So the blood and the fat were two things that we were completely to abstain from any animal. And the fat is what causes a lot of problems as well, because the fat is a lot of the part that we put, like our meat drippings, and putting it in our gravies, and putting it in our in with our vegetables and things like that, and our soups. And that fat is basically the animal in liquid form, and it's very strong, and so you really don't want to be eating the fat of the animal. And the blood was totally forbidden, so you want to make sure you really cook it well. Don't eat it rare, eat it well done. And so that would be for any meat. Now, moving on to eliminating all meat would be the next step. And when you start to eliminate, there are products out there that can help you get to cross over to where you can have some transition foods. Now, these foods are not really that healthy. They are still processed. You can get like veggie burger in a can, usually in a can at the health food store. You can get, it's basically a soy protein. A lot of these fake meats are like, they're just soybeans that have been highly seasoned with a lot of different meat-like tastes and textures. You also can get something called fried chick, and it tastes like chicken, and they're very good, they're very tasty. It's just not something you want to stay on forever because it isn't the healthiest thing. But it will help you, if you're eating a lot of meats, it'll help you to transition over from eating those meats into eating foods that are a little healthier for you, and you're not going to have to deal with all the disease that is in the meat, all the viruses that are in the meat. So, you know, animals, they get viruses, and you've never heard of a vegetable getting a virus. You've never heard of the green bean flu. You've never heard of that. You've never heard of kale flu, you know, but there's swine flu and bird flu and horse flu and all these other flus, you know, and E. coli and things like that, because animals get disease and they get viruses that infect us. But vegetables, beans, they don't get the flu, they don't get viruses. So that is one reason why it's very good to get off of the meat, even if you go to a transition food that might not be the healthiest for you. You're already cutting out a lot of disease. You still do want to eventually get off of these processed foods because they are processed, but this is a bridge to help you to get from that taste that you're used to of the meat to where you're just weaning yourself off of it. And then you don't even have to use these kinds of transition foods if you don't want to. You don't have to, it's not necessary. We eat like oat burgers and black bean burgers and things like that I'll show you when we go to the kitchen. And you put that on your hamburger bun with your lettuce, tomato, you know, pickles, ketchup, onions, mustard, whatever you want to put on there, and you know, it tastes just like you're eating a burger. So there are other ways of doing it. You can skip over those transition foods and just go straight into these other foods that are not processed and eat them the same way. They even have seasonings you can put in there that make it taste like a chicken sandwich. So there are a lot of things that you can do. You don't have to go to the processed foods, but I do want to let you know that they do have a lot of substitutes out there, not necessarily healthy, but they're not meat, and you're not worrying about the disease that comes from meat and viruses and things like that. So you are eliminating a lot by just switching over from not eating meat. They have bacon that's like meat, and they have they have some meat that's kind of like taco meat. It's soybean. So there's a lot of things that you can do in place of to make it still you think that you're eating meat. So once you get out of, you know, and I can't tell you how difficult it was the first time that we to try to figure out how to not eat meat. For me to plan a meal without meat. It's probably been about 8 or 9 years since we took the unclean meat out of our diet, but we've only been eating no meat at all, vegetarian, for about 1.5 years. And I remember back when our nutritionist was telling us, you know, just try to go every other night without eating meat, or try to, you know, only, you know, go a couple nights a week without eating meat at least. And just trying to do that, I can't tell you how difficult that was, just trying to to make a meal without meat. I'm like, how am I going to make a meal without meat? I don't even know how to do it. Just was so foreign to me, and I wasn't used to it because we usually pick out our meat and then we plan everything else around that as the centerpiece. And I remember the first time I tried to do that was very difficult. So, and when we first would eat a meal without meat, it was like we were still hungry, and you know, it was like, why is this? Why am I so hungry? And first of all, it was because my body wasn't used to it. You know, our bodies can be like selfish children. They just lash out against us and say, what is wrong? What is my meat? You know, it's not used to getting what it wants to get, and so your body's it's gonna react. It's gonna let you know. And that's one thing that, you know, you just have to give it some time and let your body adjust. The second thing is that I didn't know how to prepare these foods. I didn't know how to, you know, I didn't have any recipes. All my nutritionists had given me was just, you know, the kind of food to eat, like cauliflower, peas, or it would just name the food, but he never gave me recipes or showed me how to do it or anything like that. So it was very boring and bland, and I've learned since then that not only are there a lot better ways to eat, but you need to add more. A lot of times I would not fix enough food, and you've got to put a little bit more of these other foods. You know, it's just so easy to forget to put enough, because we're used to these being side items instead of being more of the meal. And that's another part that you want to make sure that you put more of the item on the table, because they're the food, not the side dish. So there were some things in learning in that adjustment, but you do adjust, and you'll be way better off for it. You will live a lot healthier without all that. So when we go into the kitchen, we will learn some more ways to of the transition foods and the different ways that you can prepare meals. And so when we very first quit eating meat, which was about 1.5 years ago, what got me started on that was Robin Openshaw, who's the green smoothie girl, which I talk about her a lot because she's the one that introduced me to green smoothies. And what got us started on the no meat was that she had came out with an 8-week menu plan. And so this menu plan had every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what you were to eat. It had the recipes in the back, it had the shopping list, as the meal plan, and all the meal planning notes, preparation notes. And this was great for me because I knew what to do, but I didn't know how to do it. And this really helped me have a plan where I would know how to eat this way. And so it was exactly what I needed. And before, you know, we didn't really decide, hey, we're going to go meatless. We're going to become vegetarians now. We didn't decide it like that. We never really had it like as a goal or anything. It wasn't like something we set out to do. We just thought, well, we're open to it. You know, we'll try it. You know, we'll give it a try and just see, you know, how it goes. And so we did the first 8 weeks, and we saw that we could eat this way. It wasn't really that difficult because we had a plan. And so after the first 8 weeks, we decided to do it again. So we started over the front of the book again and went through another 8 weeks. And also during this time, the first 8 weeks, we did not eat any dessert at all either. And in the back of the book, there's a few dessert items, and you know, she said if you want to add one dessert per week, like on the weekend as a special treat, you know, that's fine. But the first 8 weeks, we didn't do any desserts. And if we went to church or to someone's house and there were desserts there, we may have gotten it that way, but we didn't eat it. I didn't make it in the home. So that's a good way of kind of trying to eliminate some of that. If you don't have it at home and you're not making it, and you only can get it outside the house when someone offers it to you, that's a good way to kind of eliminate a lot of those treats and desserts and things like that. Or as she said, just limit it to a day on the weekend. Now we'll have a treat. We'll have a dessert, but I make it. I make sure it's homemade. And that'll be real motivating to you. If you're going to eat a sweet, you've got to make it. Not getting a box of Twinkies or whatever, from the store that's all highly processed. If you want something that's a treat, you need to get in the kitchen and make it. And that way you know exactly what it is, and you know it's homemade, and you know it's going to be better for you. And I'm going to show you some of the things that you can do to make any recipe, pretty much any recipe, but healthier with the ingredients that you use. Okay, so after you've gotten the meat out of your diet, then the next step would be to eliminate all animal products, which would include dairy, which is your milk, butter, cheese, and eggs. When we first eliminated all the meat out of our diet, we also went ahead and at the same time we quit eating meat, we stopped with drinking the cow's milk, and we stopped, I believe it was the eggs and butter, like those three things right there. I know we stopped with the cow's milk, and I believe we stopped with the eggs. I think those were the first two things that I completely eliminated along with the meat. Because the cow's milk was really easy to eliminate because we didn't just drink cow's milk like in a glass like that. We only had it over our cereal or in recipes. And so it's very easy to substitute cow's milk for other milks and recipes because you're just trying to get the consistency and you're not really noticing a change in the taste. So that's very easy to do. They have almond milk, they have soy milk, they have coconut milk that you can substitute in your recipes. I remember way back even when we were meat eaters how if I didn't have milk for a recipe, instead of running to the store, I would take some coffee creamer, which is like dry milk, and add water to it, and that would work just fine in the recipe. Now if you were to drink that, it wouldn't taste good, but it was just fine for the recipe. So you can use these milks. You could go ahead right now and any recipe for dinner or baking that calls for milk, you could start putting the almond milk in there. Soy milk, you still have to be careful about GMOs because a lot of soybeans are genetically modified, but the soy milk is supposed to be non-GMO, but I usually just go with the almond milk just to be sure. Now, soy milk tastes a lot closer to real milk, and the almond milk is a little different. It takes a little adjustment, a little getting used to. It's a little thicker, but after a while, it'll be just fine. I mean, you'll get used to it. And but for recipes, it's no problem to go ahead and just use that substitute. Then with the eggs, there's a lot of substitutes for recipes that you can do for eggs. There's an egg replacement that they have at the health food store. You can also use applesauce, bananas. You can use flaxseed meal. There's all different kind of things. It just depends on what you're using it for. And as far as like scrambled eggs, tofu, there's a tofu recipe that looks and tastes a lot like scrambled eggs, and that, totally takes care of that. Now if you like fried eggs, that's something that there's really not a substitute for. So when it comes to things like that you really don't have a good substitute for, I would just say go ahead and eat them, but eat them less. Like maybe only eat them once a month, and like make that a special treat for you if you really like them. Don't try to, just, it's bad for you because if, eggs are so bad. They have high cholesterol, and if you eat an egg every day, it's certain death. You're certain to die. It's just going to clog up your arteries over time, and you're going to have a heart attack or something. So it's not good. Eggs are very high in cholesterol. But if you want something like that there's not a substitute for, just eat it, but eat it less often until you eat it less and less and less and less until you're not eating it anymore. And so that's another way of going about it. I don't think that it's good to eat something that you're really not enjoying. I think it's better if you just go ahead and eat that thing that you know is bad for you, but eat it less. and eat it less and less and less and wean yourself off of it than trying to force yourself to eat something you're really not enjoying. Now, having said that, you got to give yourself a chance too, because just because you try it the first time and you don't like it doesn't mean you won't like it the second time or the third or the fourth time. There was this one recipe that our family started eating, and the first time I made it, they didn't really take to it too well. They really weren't sure how they felt about it. They weren't really liking it a lot. And then the second time that I made it, we went back through the second 8 weeks, they were loving it. They were just eating it up. And I said, y'all really didn't like it this much the first time we had it? And they said, yeah, we did. Yeah, we liked it. And I'm like, no, you didn't. But sometimes they forget that they didn't like it. So, you just have to keep reintroducing it to them again and again. And, maybe the third or fourth time. But I don't, by that time you might, your body will, it'll grow on you and you'll like it. So you do have to give yourself a chance and time to adjust. But I don't think that it's good to keep forcing yourself to eat something that you really just do not like. Don't do that, because your body's not going to get the benefit from it anyway. If you're not enjoying what you're eating, if you're not eating it with relish and really it's tasty and good to you and you can't wait to eat it after you've had it several times and you still don't feel that way about it, if you're not eating it where you really like it, you're really not getting the benefit, because most of the digestion takes place in the mouth to begin with, and you need to be salivating for it. And if you're not, then you're eating it just to chew on it. You're not really getting the benefit. You're not absorbing all those nutrients that it has into your body anyway. So you really should enjoy what you're eating for the most part. So, one thing I want to say right here, as far as being vegetarian, not all vegetarians are healthy necessarily. A lot of people think that, okay, they're vegetarian, they, eat all these healthy foods. Vegetarian just means that a person does not eat meat. That person can have a diet that wholly consists of just candy and call themselves a vegetarian, technically, because they don't eat meat, but all they're eating is junk food. It's not good for them. A vegetarian doesn't mean that they eat vegetables. I know vegetarians that don't like vegetables, which is really kind of ironic. But vegetarian just means that you don't eat meat. It doesn't mean that you do eat vegetables. You could eat nothing but junk and not eat meat, and call yourself a vegetarian. So vegetarian is not necessarily healthy. It depends on what you're eating. Just because you give up meat doesn't mean that you're going to now start eating healthy foods. We hope that's what it is. But just because you don't eat meat, you've got to look at all the other things that you're putting into your body. And a lot of times I notice people, when I first was looking at the vegetarian lifestyle, that's one of the first things that I noticed. Was like, well, because they're not eating meat, they're putting a lot of other things in their body that, trying to make up for that by like a lot of sweets and sugars and highly refined items and desserts and a lot of, like a lot of carbs that are really refined and things like that, and cheese and things. So you still have to make it well-rounded and balanced. So just because someone's a vegetarian and they don't eat meat does not mean that they're healthy. And so back to our journey, when we went to no animal products at all, no dairy, no meat and no dairy, which is vegan, we stopped with the cow's milk, and then we stopped with the eggs, and that was the very first two things. And then the butter, I made sure that I wasn't purchasing any of the margarines, like the bad oils, because all those bad oils, they're hydrogenated vegetable oils and have all this, partially hydrogenated and hydrolyzed soy protein and stuff like that. All that is really bad for you. And at least the butter, the whole raw butter, does come from the cow, and it's more natural, even though a lot of those animals, they're diseased, and so that's really not good either. I don't think any of it's healthy. But my first step in my mind was at least get the animal that's natural and not the synthetic man-made, something made in a lab margarine that is really bad for you. So it's kind of like, do you want the diseased natural animal or do you want something made in a lab that's synthetic man-made? It's not really food. I mean, neither one of them is a win to me. But when I first stopped eating when on the butter, I stopped eating the margarine and just went with the whole raw butter. But there's also something called Earth Balance, and it's made with the good oils. It's made with flaxseed oil, olive oil, and soybean oil. So that has the good healthy fats. It's still not the best thing because it is processed, and you know, it's got high in fat and calories because it's got some of the good fats in there. But now I don't even use that. I know before I used butter a lot, and I don't know why now I don't even use it at all. But before I just couldn't imagine not using it. I would use a pat of butter in my vegetables when I would cook them. I would use it, you know, on potatoes and use it on bread. Well, now I just put olive oil and salt in my vegetables when I cook them. And on a potato, olive oil and salt, maybe some pepper and vinegar if you want to, and that's all you need. For bread, at first we just started putting coconut oil on it. And then now what's even better is we just take a plate and put olive oil and salt and pepper on it and dip the bread in it. And that's the best thing. I mean, you don't need butter when you got olive oil and salt. Yes, that's just the best thing. Like they do at those fancy restaurants. It's really good. And so, and then as far as some of the recipes, there are some good oils that you can substitute for butter, but then there's those times when there's recipes that call for that type of consistency that butter has, and that's the only time I really reach for the Earth Balance, because it does have that consistency. But those are very few and far between, very rare that I would go so far as to need that recipe that has something like that in it. It's usually a treat, something really special, so I really don't use that very much at all. Then the very last thing that we quit eating was cheese. Cheese is highly addictive. It's tough. It's very hard to let go of. That fattiness, that fatty food, we crave it. It's the #1 addictive food is cheese. #2 is chocolate. So cheese is the #1 addictive food, and it's just highly addictive because of that fattiness, and we all crave it, and it's something that you can get over. And when you start getting all the nutrients that you need from these green smoothies, you're not going to have those cravings so much. But the way that we got over cheese was we started using some of the good fats. Your olives are good fats, your avocados are good fats, and nuts and seeds make good fats. And so for like our baked potato, I just whip up some avocado and put it on there. And avocado has that fatty, the good fat in it, and it's like a buttery taste, and it's creamy, and so we put that on our baked potato. And then for our burritos and tacos and things like that, putting that avocado and olives on there. It doesn't taste like cheese, but it takes care of that craving for cheese. You feel like you get your cheese fix because you're getting that fatty, the good fat in there. There's also like a Parmesan cheese that you can make just out of almonds and salt. And so I'll show you that recipe. And it looks like Parmesan cheese, and it tastes a lot like it too. So just getting those good fats in there from the nuts. And so these are some ways that you can get over the cheese addiction. And after that, when you finally get past where you're not eating the unclean meat, and you're not eating meat at all, and then you're not eating dairy, you're not eating any animal products, then the next thing would be to, and you can even do this now before you stop eating meat, you can start putting these raw green smoothies into your diet. The more of these raw green smoothies that you get in, you are going to be what my friend calls nutrified, and I like that word. You're going to be nutrified. You're going to have all these nutrients in your body that you need, and you're not going to be having all these cravings for those processed foods and the junk foods and salty foods and all fatty foods and cheesy foods and all that. So you can start doing that now even before you give up meat, but you want to put more of these raw greens, and our next video is going to be on how to do a raw green smoothie. So we love our smoothies, so if that would be the next thing that you would want to do. And then once you are getting, you're not eating meat, you're not eating dairy, you're getting these good raw greens and fruits into your diet, the next thing that you're going to want to take a look at is wheat, your breads and things like that. This is something that, and I've only just now realized, but some of your grains like beans and rice and oats and things like that, you could just continue to eat how you're eating them now, but for your bread especially, and bread is in so many things, I mean, from sandwiches, burritos, croissants, your tortillas, your cornbread, your rolls, all these danishes and things like that, dessert breads. There's so much a part of our life that is bread. And really for bread, you want to cut it way down or eliminate it unless you learn to sprout it. Now the approach that I took to this, at first, the very first thing that I did, and this just happened naturally, but I just kind of said in my mind when we first started the 8-week menu plan, I had decided that I would still buy bread from the store to make sandwiches for the kids' lunches every day, because there was no way I was going to be able to make bread every day for lunches, for sandwiches. So I continued to buy the bread, the sliced up bread for sandwiches, and occasionally I would buy some rolls, but then, because it was on the menu plan. But then I said, okay, we're not going to eat bread for dinner, because a lot of times we would have a slice of bread. We would have bread at the dinner table all the time, I mean a lot. So I finally just eliminated that, and I said, we're not going to have bread at the dinner table unless I make it. That meant that I need to get motivated to get in the kitchen and learn how to make bread. So the only time, and really for like those 2 8-week sessions, so for 16 weeks we didn't really have hardly any bread at the table for a long time. And even when I would make it, it'd be gone like that day. So we really didn't have it a lot. Unless I made it, we didn't just eat bread at the dinner table. We only had it from the store for sandwiches, mostly for kids' lunches. But this is the same thing that I have said to myself with desserts. I said, unless I make it, we won't eat it, or someone offers it to us from outside the home. And there's a big difference in having it in the home and having it offered to you or eating it outside the home. That's a great way to cut back on things. And so with the desserts, I decided, along with the bread at dinner time, I just said we're not going to have it unless I make it homemade. And then this is also the same thing I've said to myself with the sprouting of the bread, which I talked about in the sprouting video. I'm trying to get to the point where it's like, we're not going to eat bread unless it's sprouted. Before I said we weren't going to eat it unless I made it, and now it's become, I'm not going to eat it unless I make it and I sprout it. And so that's not always 100% of the time, because I'm still learning to get that in my mind. Okay, I've got to soak this first. And so it's kind of a transition. But that's just another part of your diet that you can learn to try to start getting that into your mind, that okay, I really don't need to eat bread unless it's a sprouted bread. The sprouted is what's going to make it more nutritious and less dangerous for you, less inhibiting of all those processes that go in your body and causing digestion issues. If you can make it sprouted, it's almost better just to not eat it at all unless you do eat it sprouted, especially if you have problems with bread. So it's definitely going to help your weight and going to help your digestion, and a lot of problems come from indigestion from wheat and things like that. So if you can start learning to sprout your bread, or just eliminate it if you can't do that. So once you get to that point, I mean, when you're not eating animal products, including dairy, you're getting a lot of raw green smoothies and raw green vegetables in your diet, good salads and things like that, and you are cutting out and eliminating these highly processed junk foods and doing homemade treats and desserts that you make yourself in the home, and you're cutting out, you know, a lot of the bread unless you're making it yourself and sprouting it yourself. You are going to notice the benefits. You're going to notice the difference. You're going to see your weight go down. You're going to see your energy go up. You're going to see a lot of diseases and symptoms that you're having going away slowly. One day you'll just wake up and you'll be like, wow, I haven't had such and such in forever. I remember whenever I said, wow, I haven't had a headache in forever. I don't remember the last time I had a headache. My husband and I used to eat aspirin every day. I mean, we'd have a headache every day, you know. And now it's very rare that we have a headache, and if we do, I don't even take aspirin. I mean, I don't even take aspirin. I have a pillow. It's an herbal pillow. It's got lavender in it, and I heat that up and put it on my face and breathe that in, and it relaxes the tension, and that's how we get rid of headaches around here when we do get one. And it's usually from stress. And so, you know, heating pad on the stomach for, you know, problems with stomach aches or menstrual aches or anything like that. Heat is a really good way to alleviate pain, any kind of pain. I had some pain in my leg. Put that heating pad on there. Don't grab that bottle of aspirin or painkiller. Just get your heating pad and put that heat on there. You'll be surprised at how good that is for pain. A lot of times when we take pain medications just push everything down deeper into the tissue. When you just try to eliminate it through drugs, you're just pushing all of that down deeper into the tissue, pushing the disease and the sickness down instead of letting it come out naturally. And so once you get to that point, you're going to really start noticing some things. You might notice that, well, you haven't had an allergy attack or an asthma attack in months, but you didn't realize it until one day all of a sudden. Or pain. Pain is another thing that you'll start noticing that decreasing. You'll start noticing things like your blood cholesterol, high blood pressure, and diabetes. Those are things that are the easiest things to correct with diet. So these are some things you're going to notice within a month. You're going to notice your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and your cholesterol count. So there's a lot of great benefits to eating healthier. And these are some of the steps that you can take in this transition. When we started on the 8-week menu plan, there were a lot of items in there, that a lot of recipes that had a lot of really, just a lot of different ingredients, and they're very spicy. And when you're coming off of a highly seasoned meat diet, it's really good to keep a lot of good seasoned things, a lot of different ingredients, a lot of, you know, because your taste buds are used to being stimulated. And so this kind of keeps your taste buds kind of, you know, with all the different ingredients and spices. It's real hearty, it's very rich, just like the meat, and it kind of replaces it by keeping those dishes really highly seasoned. But as time goes on, you can start eliminating some where you don't need so much of that. It's not as healthy, it's not as good on digestion to have a whole lot of different things going on in the mouth at one time. I mean, your body needs to process things. So if you can just cut back on those things over time, you'll be able to do that as well. And then there are a lot of other things as far as, how much you're eating and the time of day that you're eating. And earlier is better, and less is always better, because you don't want to eat too much. Even if you eat a whole bowl full of something very, very healthy for you, I mean, a whole bowl of blueberries, but you eat so much that you're stuffed and rolling on the floor and your stomach's like a beach ball, and that's not good. You're not supposed to eat till you're like just busting, even if it's something healthy. You can get too much of a good thing, so you don't want to overeat at all. It's not good for your body. Even if it's something that is good for your body, to overeat it is not good. Let's be gentle and easy on our bodies, and this journey will become a lifestyle for you. It will become a lot easier for you. Just take it one day at a time. Be patient with yourself. Don't beat yourself up if it's something that you feel like you failed. You're not failing unless you give up on it. So just God is very patient with us. He's more patient with us than we are with ourselves. And the fact that you're taking a step and you're trying, it is great, and you're going to notice the benefits. You're going to be the better for it. And hopefully with some of these recipes and things I can show you will help make it an easier transition for you. The more you eat of a good food, the more your body's going to want it. And the more you eat of something bad, the more your body's going to want it. Whatever you feed your body is what it's going to crave. So the less you eat of the bad, the less your body's gonna crave it. It's gonna forget about it, and it's gonna stop craving it. And the more that you're eating good food, it's going to start craving that. Whatever you're feeding it is what it's going to eventually want. What you quit feeding it, it's going to forget about. And it's not going to be craving it as much. So don't introduce your body to something you don't want it to start craving. Just what I always say is start putting the good in, and it'll push the bad out. Just start putting the good in, and you'll have these sweet cravings less, these processed food cravings less, and you will probably even crave the meat less. The more you get these good nutrients into your body, that's what your body's really craving. That's what it really wants. It doesn't want all this other stuff. It just doesn't know what else to have. That's what it's always gotten. And we keep feeding it things that it's not really asking for. And one of the other things that we had to get off of was coffee and caffeine. We had eliminated all the soda and things like that. Never were into energy drinks or anything like that. But coffee and tea were hard to do. And the way we got off of coffee is because caffeine is like, it's a drug. And when you have that every morning to get yourself going in the morning, it's hard to come off of it. But we just had to completely cold turkey just eliminate it. And because we were drinking 1 or 2 cups a day every single day, and especially in the winter time when it was cold outside, and something that kind of gets you going in the morning. But we just had to quit completely and just eliminate that altogether. And so, you'd be surprised at just drinking lots of water and getting a good night's rest. You'll wake up feeling refreshed and more energized. I mean, whatever you get your body addicted to is going to be addicted to it. So when we quit drinking coffee cold turkey, we had to just suffer the withdrawals, because you will have withdrawals. We had headaches, really bad headaches, and if you drink a lot of coffee, you might even get the shakes. This is a withdrawal. This is like, you can tell this is a drug, because your body cannot deal with not having it. That's what a drug does. And food is a drug. I mean, if you take it away, you start having withdrawals just like a heroin addict. It's like, I need my coffee, I've got a headache, I can't even, function in everyday life, I can't even think. That's because it's a drug. That right there proves it. When you can't go without it, you are addicted, and drugs are addictive. So what we did start doing eventually, though, is we started drinking the herbal teas. And this was one thing that kind of helped, because it's still warm, when it's cold outside, something hot that you can drink. And herbal teas are naturally caffeine free. They're not decaffeinated. When you drink something that's been decaffeinated, decaf coffee, decaf tea, what they use is nicotine in the process. And so I don't really think that it's better than caffeine, because which would you rather have, the caffeine or the nicotine that they put it through to process it to decaffeinate it? So herbal teas are naturally caffeine free, meaning that it never had the caffeine to begin with. And so you really need to find ones that you like, because every time that I would try one, it was one that I didn't like. And so it took time. Just keep trying a different one until you find the ones that you like. The first one that we found that we liked was the lemon ginger. We really liked the lemon ginger. And then we found the country peach. And when we thought we couldn't get any better than the country peach, we found the apple cinnamon spice. And to this day, that's what we drink. We really like it. It tastes like Red Hots, the cinnamon candy Red Hots. And you put a little stevia in there and stir it up, and it's really good. And so we still like the lemon ginger and the country peach too. But these are really good. It's a good way to have no caffeine and to drink something warm. And you can make a tea out of a lot of things. It's just, you know, experiment. As your body starts learning to adjust to this new way that you're taking care of it, these new foods that you're putting in it, it will begin a process of adjusting. It will begin to heal. You'll start seeing benefits. I'm very excited to go into the kitchen with you and start showing you some practical ways that you can do this. And anyway, it's an exciting journey. Look at it like that. Look at it as a journey. It's step by step by step by step, one foot in front of the other. And your body will thank you for it. And so I hope this information has been helpful to you. Again, my blog is www.destiny-dawn.blogspot.com. Try to put every video up there every week, every new video once a week. And also on YouTube, and my email, righttouchdetail@bellsouth.net. Thanks for watching.